Hello again. So many requests over time for me to have a look at the Remington 700, and sorry it took me so long. Before I forget, please subscribe, and if you can, join me on Patreon, and I'll get right to the subject matter. So we got a selection of them on the table, and you've probably heard a lot of talk about how new Remington 700s aren't as good as the original Model 700, or maybe older ones. This is a 1967. I looked the codes up. That's readily available on the web, and this is the ADL, so it has no floor plate. Actually, some years ago, I was at a gun show, and somebody was selling the floor plate trigger guard. Well, Remington parts are easy to come by, and it would be very simple for me to convert this into a 700 with a floor plate. So a couple of things to draw to your attention. The safety is different from the new ones. The bolt handle is different, and the bolt shroud here in the back has a different shape. And you can see there's a cutout here, and I've asked some of you to tell me what this is for, and there seems to be an agreement that this is for a stripper clip. And there was an old, really interesting Bosch and Lohm scope on this, which I'll show you another time. That just comes to mind. There was no jeweling or machining on the bolt body. And what can I tell you about? Oh, the sight. Most of you will remember the old Remington rear sight, which is quite a bit nicer than the new one. Very nicely done. But what I wanted to say is the differences are actually hard to convey on a video because the steel just feels different. The way the bolt runs, and I looked at this and worked the actions of all of them a few times before filming. So all I can say is whatever steel they used initially, or maybe the finish that they put on the original steel, is different. And that bolt handle is quite different. So this is the 67, and actually the 700 was introduced in 62 from memory. And just in case there's any doubt, you can see on the side of the action Remington Model 700. And this barrel is only 22 inches, I think, a little shorter, but it's factory. That's how it was made. So that's the sort of original series. I was told by a few people that this is the way they were for the first few years. Now, one difference is here somebody put a buttstock, and you can, a recoil pad, and you can tell that that's not original. But once in a while when I'm wandering around the shows, you come across stuff, and this would be the stock for that original Model 700. And it has the impress check ring, same as the ADL. It's not the same pattern, but you can tell that the check ring was just pressed into the wood by a more or less it's an iron that they press in, and so it's kind of check ring in reverse. You do get some kind of a grip, and it has a fancy appearance. And then a foreign tip black. It's just plastic. Same with the pistol grip cap, and then the butt plate is just a typical Remington butt plate. These were around for nothing for a long time. So I actually have quite a few of these old Remington stocks. They're quite interesting, nicely made. I can't say anything about the bedding being dramatically different from generation to generation. But let's move from this one. So we've got the 67. Then I refer to my paper so I don't get confused. And this is a 71. So this one, you can see, this is a left-hand model. This one is very similar to the ones that you would see today. You can note the bolt handle is in that new configuration. I'll just open this action, and then you can see them. I mean, it's a different angle because one is left hand and the other is right hand. But 1971, and it's the front sight, rear sight has changed. The stock looks a lot like the modern ones. It has that. It's kind of an epoxy or polymer finish of some kind. I've got to tell you though, this steel still runs well. This is a slick action. So 1971, and we're still in the high quality zone. The safety has changed, and I mean, I shoot this rifle. I'm not left-handed, but I think I told you it doesn't matter to me. And actually, they're quite nice to run, whichever way you want to use them. I could put another right-handed stock on it, but it doesn't really matter. And there's not much of a difference in speed either. Actually, I prefer the rounds kicking out to the left. And some of you target shooters might know that there are actions that are right-hand bolt, left-hand port, which is quite convenient for loading at the range. Anyhow, this is the 71. And then we jump forward to a 2007. I actually forgot I had this rifle. This is from the Remington custom shop, in case you haven't ever seen one of these creatures. I put this on for no good reason. I should probably take it off. But this is what the custom shop puts out. And I don't know what grade this is or anything, but it's got the newer bolt handle, and then still the same new Remington rear sight. It's got a rosewood fore-end tip. The checkering reminds me of Winchester Model 70. It's got a really nice recoil pad. And while I was kind of reviewing things before filming, I measured the stock, and actually this is shorter than all the others, but it's factory original, so hard to say. It's 13 inches overall. Maybe somebody ordered it that way, I don't know. But this one's spotless, and it has the push button, floor plate, trigger, safety, everything familiar. So what can I say? That's an 07. Is that right? Yeah. Still nice. The steel is starting to change. Now it's either the steel or the manufacturing process. I can't tell. And I know I've had 700s where the bolt handle shows signs of some metal process on the sides. But what that is, these big operations, whether they're sintering or casting, I don't know. I tried to look for like a mold line, but I thought I had seen one on another 700. So this, I think it's still fine, but it's not like the 67 or the 71. And even the bluing, you can see, not that this is a big criticism, but it has been polished and blued, and they use some complicated process where they put the actions in beads or something, I forget. A fellow from Remington was actually telling me about that. But you have a look at that, and then you see the 71. That's a deep gloss blue, just the way you want bluing to be. Really, really nice rifle. And before I get all critical, these are all superbly accurate rifles. They had barrels figured out long ago. And then this is my smoothbore 308. This is a 2014. And now we've kind of reached whatever it is. The metal doesn't run as smoothly. Again, I'm not an expert, whether it's the finish on the bolt or something, but it's still okay, but not like the older ones. And then they've gone to some kind of bead blasting, and I'm sure you can get models that have the high polish blue, but whether this was an SPS, I can't remember. They call that like a special purpose synthetic, but very nice. Now this is the short action, of course, in 308. All the others I showed you were long actions, 25-06, 30-06, and 30-06 in the left hand as well. Any criticisms or anything? These are strictly cosmetic operations. The safety actually works fine on the 1967 model. I tried every kind of manipulation to get something to go wrong, and the trigger itself is good as well. So I don't know what went on with all that safety stuff. Obviously there was something, but there you have it. And overall conclusion, I think it's safe to say it's the most popular sporting bolt action rifle. It passed mil spec. It's used around the world. I encounter it wherever I go. It's an absolutely excellent rifle, and although it isn't controlled round feet, everything works the way it should, irrespective of what steels they're using. These are superb rifles. You just can't go wrong buying a Remington 700 and paying a little more instead of getting a 783 or something like that. You know as well as I do, when you buy the discount models, you pay less, but when you go to sell them, you get far less. With the 700, they hold their value well, even though they're a common rifle. Just people know they're excellent, and most of the time worth close to asking or retail price. And that's about all I had to say. It's one of these guns that just is legendary and stands for itself. And I recommend them to anybody who's questioning what to buy. I prefer the Model 70 with a controlled round feed, but that's just me. Anyhow, so that's my Model 700, and all the people that wanted me to compare the Model 700 and the Model 7, I think that's going to be my next video. So you'll see more 700s and the Model 7 shortly. Thanks very much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.